As far back as I can remember, I was 3 years old when my whole world shifted. There were no explanations, no warnings, just this quiet feeling that the house I knew wasn't the same anymore. The first thing I remember were the boxes, brown cardboard boxes lined up along the hallway. They didn't appear all at once. They showed up slowly, quietly, one after another, like the house was letting go of little pieces of itself. Every time a box closed, something inside me tightened, even though I didn't understand why. Rooms felt different. The air felt stretched somehow. Shelves looked emptier, and corners that used to hold toys felt strangely big and bare. I didn't understand packing or moving. All I knew was that things were disappearing one small piece at a time. There was a different kind of silence in the house. Not peaceful, just present. I don't remember my parents arguing in front of me, but something still felt different. Softer footsteps, shorter conversations, doors closing a little more gently, carefully, almost like they were trying not to wake something sleeping. Then one morning, some of my father's shoes were gone. Not all of them, just enough to make the space by the door feel wrong. I didn't have words for absence, but I felt it. Something in my world had already moved. The day we left, the sky was still dark. That's how it sits in my memory. Early, quiet, the kind of morning where the world hasn't woken up yet. The air felt colder when my mother carried me outside. She wasn't rushed. She wasn't soft. She was steady, the way she always was. She buckled me into my car seat with practiced hands. Not tender, not emotional, just responsible. She gave me a small nod and said, "It's gonna be okay, buddy." Simple, something a child could hold on to, even without knowing what was happening. The drive felt longer than usual. Streetlights drifted past like slow-moving stars. I remember pressing my hands against a cold window, watching the world slide by in blurry shapes I didn't recognize. I didn't know this was the last time I'd see my house as my home. The toys in their corners, the way the morning light used to spill across the floor, the sound of my father's footsteps in the hallway. All of it stayed behind as we headed toward a place I couldn't picture. And then the car slowed. Bright lights, big windows, people moving everywhere. We had reached the airport. Everything felt enormous. Bright lights overhead, a thick mix of voices, rolling suitcases clicking across the floor. It all felt too big, too loud, like the world had suddenly turned its volume up. People moved with purpose, like they knew exactly where they were going. And then there was us, my mother gripping my hand, steady as always, and me trying to keep up in a place that felt like 10 different worlds happening at once. I remember the smell, coffee, cold air, something metallic, the kind of smell that tells you you're far from home. My mother checked papers, answered questions, nodded her usual serious nod. None of it meant anything to me. All I knew was that something important was happening, and I was just supposed to follow. When we boarded the plane, the seats felt tall, towering over me. The window was a perfect oval. The seatbelt felt stiff against my shirt. I remember the low hum of the engines, a deep sound that made my stomach flutter. And then we lifted off. Everything familiar shrank beneath us. Houses, streets, the backyard where I used to run. All of it becoming smaller and smaller until it disappeared into clouds. I didn't understand distance or states or custody. I only understood one thing. We weren't going back. Something shifted inside me on that flight, quietly, permanently. That was the moment my life split into before and after. When we landed, even the air felt different. Colors looked brighter. The sky felt like it belonged to someone else. I didn't know the word relocation, but I felt the weight of it settle inside me. Walking through that new place, I tried to move like everything still made sense, but somewhere deep behind my ribs, something ached. A kind of homesickness too big for a 3-year-old to name. That was the beginning of distance, not just on a map, inside me. My parents were both trying, just not in the same direction. They loved me. That part was true, but they couldn't always hear each other through the static. Missed calls, tangled plans, days falling out of sync even when they meant well. There were no slammed doors, no shouting matches, just two adults quietly building separate futures while still sharing one child moving between them. Somewhere in all of it, I became the bridge they never learned how to build. All I really knew was a space between them, a space I had to learn to live inside. Years later, I'd understand the truth. I wasn't just leaving one home or entering another, I was stepping into a life quietly divided in two. Two parents, two stories, two versions of love that would never stand in the same room together again. And I was the one who had to learn how to carry both.